Hello, welcome to episode 9
Well,
of the Why podcast. Today, we are asking why people go to war. It's a pretty, I don't know, kind of could be seen as negative, war, but we're gonna look at it
be
from
seen as
we're gonna look at it from
but we're
both
gonna be looking
sides.
at it from a positive side.
No, okay, not necessarily positive, but maybe the
We
sides
love
of
war.
why it happens, because it does happen, and it's shit,
To be fair,
but
it's not every instance of people going to war is not necessarily bad.
yeah, like if you think back in I don't know like when exactly, what year or whatever, but that people would have seen going to war as like honorable and a good positive. They actually would have seen it as a positive thing. Like obviously we see it as negative because
Oh
it's
yeah.
a lot of killing and death. Like it's not actually doesn't seem necessary. But say back in hundreds, thousands of years ago, it could have been seen as honorable to go to war and die. Like some people still probably feel good about it, like fighting for their country.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. But I mean, also the difference back then is that the natural difference of where you lived was actually a big problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it
So
actually mattered because like logistically, you can
if
just fly to the side of the world and shit like that now.
yeah, and let's say there's also a lot of cases where you've had like a natural disaster happen and someone was like forced to move somewhere, and then the people that were there were like, okay, but
True.
we're not gonna let you in, so they were kind of like forced to fight. Although you could say who's got more right, but
I guess
it's not
that's
about who's got more right.
natural
It's just more
conflict at
about
that point and
yeah,
territory.
that those kind of conflicts are kind of, I'd say, kind of the biological side of war
Yeah,
when it comes to humans. It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
those kind of
The
wars you
evolutionary
can't
like
really avoid.
survival kind of.
That's the survival instinct. It's like I don't want to die. Like something happened to me, I don't want to die. I'm
Yeah,
gonna have to kill you or fight you
yeah.
so I
Like
can
I
survive.
actually
And that's
need
just
this land to live and like
yeah,
get my
I
food
need
and
this to
stuff.
actually survive.
If you take this, I will die. Whereas now it's the land. It's all kind of ego, and I want this land because it used to be ours, and that's
Yeah,
it.
and that's a weird problem for this day and
Mm.
age. There are, I would say, there are no actual legitimate reasons to go to war with
Yeah.
someone as the
No,
aggressor.
I don't think so. Because
Because you
I
don't, even if you have land borders, you don't really have borders anymore because you can freely travel
I
to
feel like we've
basically any
evolved to
country
a
as long as
point
you
where
cooperate.
technology and everything we don't actually have to think about survival that much, unless obviously if
No,
you're there's still obviously groups of people in the world who are less fortunate who have to actually worry about survival a lot, but they're not the
yeah,
ones going to war. That's the thing.
no,
The ones
they
going
don't
to
even care
war
about going to war. They
are the
usually just
ones
get dragged
who,
into it.
yeah, it's the people at the top who want to go, and it's almost like there's still a primitive part of their brain, obviously, that has it, but it's shaped their beliefs to a point of they believe going to war for the reason of like just getting land for the sake of getting like the pride and stuff like
Yeah,
that. That's the stuff that doesn't
or
matter at all.
or in the case of, I mean, if you take the most recent one now, like the huge one, Russia
Hmm.
versus UK, and there's a lot of Russians that are signing up because they get a huge amount of money, a
Yeah.
huge like a huge bonus and a huge like a really good contract, or
Hmm.
like it's almost the most lucrative job you could have right now is just being in the military. I mean, let
Yeah.
alone you probably won't survive, but even if you don't survive, you still end up giving your family quite a lot of money,
Hmm.
which a lot of people over there is actually dependent on to be able to survive.
Yeah. So it's almost no choice really.
So,
It's like a
so yeah, so you can. It's very easy to sit from the outside and just be like, "Oh, why are they signing up even if it's money? What do
yeah,
you think
yeah,
it's
yeah.
wrong?" But when your family is like in danger of starving because there's no jobs around, let's say you live in like Siberia or stuff like that, where a lot of the recruits are coming from, they're not very motivated to fight. They just kind of
Hmm.
want the paycheck so they can provide for the
Yeah.
family,
I
and
think I
they're not
don't
really.
really kind of look. I don't really care about the people who are actually fighting. And in terms of like, I don't think they're bad people. I care about them. I
Yeah,
think like it's really unfair that they're just getting used and controlled by just
Yeah,
people at the
this is like
top.
the only
That's all it
chance
is.
they have to be able to get ahead in life is to
Yeah,
fight in this war, which I'm assuming they don't agree with. But
yeah,
it's like either I sit and complain, possibly get arrested, possibly
yeah,
get like detained, I have to flee the country, or I fight for a certain amount of time and my family is like set for maybe like 5 years or something, like
exactly.
for quite a long future. So it's
Yeah,
from the outside, it's easy to sit here at home and just be like, oh, every Russian is bad or every soldier on the opposite side is bad. But that's the biggest mistake we've made since day one. Is every time
yeah.
we look at a huge war, we
Choosing
see
having
that
sides like that.
we see it's not about the soldiers on the ground because, like you said,
It's, it's nothing to do with them.
they don't necessarily care that much about
Mm.
what at least unless you're a soldier for fun, as in if you live like a
Yeah, like
mercenary
you're
life for
really
fun when you don't
passionate
have to,
about it for
and
some
you just
reason.
like killing, then in that case, you can absolutely blame them
Yeah,
for being part of it. But in the sense of like a normal like soldier, like a grunt, as you would
mm.
probably could probably classify them, they they're usually never at fault, and it's very easy to say after the fact that say, oh, you could have just not joined the war. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, but the option is either join the war or you get arrested, you get uh kicked out the country, you have to flee, you have to. There's so many negative things
yeah.
that are gonna happen if you don't join,
I think
compared to if you do
it's
join and
it's
let's say you win, you get so much more out of it.
it's like I think we're almost on a kind of on a fence where half of us are still like half our brains like we're still stuck in primitive
Yeah,
survival mode, and there is still war. But then the other side of this fence is we have evolved to the point where survival is pretty much taken care of, and then now it's almost we have to kind of move towards working together as like a race as humans and actually helping each other rather than going to war. And we're still
yeah, because
stuck
we
in
have enough
these
problems.
old ways
Yeah,
of leaders, just egotistical leaders who just think that they know what's best and they don't want to help people. They just want to. It's about pride and money, business.
and
There's no like human connection anymore.
genuinely, I think a lot of wars have been started by people in power that are simply bored.
Yeah, it's like you think
It's been started by people that are just so
war
far at
isn't
the
a
top.
new thing. It's almost like it's all they know.
No,
It's like what else have leaders done for thousands of years? Most
uh,
leaders have gone to war.
yeah, and the problem is if there's one thing which I think is there's probably something primitive about it or something engraved in our
Mm.
biological like being. If there's one thing that you can do when the country is going shit and you need public opinion to be good, it's go to war.
Yeah, it's almost like the
You go
get
to
out of
war,
jail
you
card.
win the war, and bada bing, bada boom, you've completely rid yourself of every other problem in the country by
Yeah,
just having gone to war.
just fighting.
Unless it goes on for too long, obviously, then that also becomes a
Yeah,
problem. But if
I,
you, literally any time back in time, the most wars usually have been started for some bogus reason, and I think it's mostly I'm pretty sure it's mostly you could tie it to people being unhappy with the current ruler or the current
yeah,
like guy in power
yeah.
to
Because
be like,
there's quite a few different types of war, isn't there, as well?
yeah,
Like obviously,
100%.
yeah. Like I think the kind of main types is a civil war, which is within, and then you know just a regular war, I guess.
Bug is
And
really I'm really quiet apparently.
oh, you're quiet. My bad.
Apparently, I've been muted.
Yeah, this is my podcast.
I've been censored. That's crazy.
um, but yeah, I think I've got something
Yes.
here that says so Hobbes' view is
Mm.
that humans are inherently warlike, and it's inherent. We're all yeah made to have conflict and go to war. Whereas Rousseau, another psychologist, I assume, humans are peaceful until corrupted by society. What do you think about that? Do you think it's society that corrupts us, that makes us go to war, or do you think? I think it could be a bit of both. Like it is inherent in us, when it comes to the primitive side of wanting to survive and food and stuff like that.
It's so difficult to you can't. I mean, I know psychologists and philosophers like to just push one opinion and just be like, yeah, this is the correct one, which I think is stupid because you just forget so many nuances. But I don't think every single human being is internally coded to just be like, yes, I want to go to war. Like inherently, I don't think. Let's say I mean, for me, for example, I live in a safe country. I've had a good life so far. I've never had the desire to go to war.
Yeah, not like war.
So
like
far,
that. But then I don't.
So far in my life,
I mean, conflict.
I do have the desire.
Conflictual tendencies when on a small scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, but the thing is more, I'm more leaning towards the society part of it.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily just society, because
you think everyone's got an inherent conflictual part of themselves. If someone annoys you, you want conflict. Think about everyone with a little bit of that, and then once you put them all together, does that make the group warlike? If they're all going for almost the same goal, does that all the little bits of conflict within people, does it all add up and make a warlike group of people? In terms of, say, a country where a leader has instilled kind of the same end goal,
the same thought process,
the same beliefs about themselves, then those little conflicts can then be grown into a war. Like, because I guess war is more multiple people. Like I don't know how I feel about calling like an individual warlike, because it takes a lot of people for there to be a war.
I think you could absolutely call an individual warlike, but only if they have a position of power.
Yeah, I was about to say, like a leader or something.
There's no. Let's say I want to go to war with like fucking Sweden and make big Norway. That's never gonna happen. No matter what I do, that is never going to happen, because the country isn't behind it, or anyone in power isn't. No, that's not even gonna happen. But so I mean, you can absolutely classify someone as being like warlike when it comes to their beliefs. Let's say the only thing I advocated for was going to war with someone. I'd say I'm pretty like warlike as a person.
Yeah.
But I couldn't possibly start a war on my own, because I'd just be seen like as a terrorist, and that would be the classification, because it's only me. It's only one individual. However, if you have, say, Putin, and he constantly screams a rhetoric of wanting to go to war, he has a whole state propaganda behind him that all pushes for war. He has a system around him that he surrounds himself with people that have to agree with him, whether they kind of like it or not, which then means that they also have to go to war, or they want to go to war. Now, all of a sudden, one individual being warlike is a completely different issue than me being warlike.
Exactly.
Because now he has the power to actually conjure up some sort of reason or some sort of result or some sort of whatever to motivate people to go to war.
It's like, how much influence you have over other people and how many other people you have influence over can determine, how warlike you are, I guess.
And you can then even, and over time, you can then even manipulate people and convince them to be warlike themselves, even if they don't agree with it, but they don't realize because of how you. Because you're so good at manipulating.
Manipulation is like you attack them through a point of vulnerability, and
so you figure out what people are most vulnerable for,
something that makes it makes them feel strong. Like You know,
Yeah,
if someone's if the country's really struggling in one certain aspect, you manipulate that and make that the reason, like the reason for that
exactly,
struggle is because of who you want to go to war with or whatever. It's like
exactly.
that's
And
how
if
you
you
get
look
into everyone's like that's how you get into a country's head
that,
basically.
yeah, exactly. And if you look at history, every single major war that has been started or initiated by someone, most likely, right before that war,
Hmm.
there was something bad going on in the country.
Yeah, at least one of them.
It's
Yeah,
a,
like it was.
I'd say like a 95% chance that
Hmm.
every single time there's been something going on in the country that has, uh, that has, what's it called, fostered these roots of we're all unhappy, we all need something to get out of this
Something needs to
shit
change. Yeah,
situation. And that's when people go to extremism or go like far left, far right, whatever, and then you get these characters that only kind of live off that sort of
it's because
ideology and
I
they get
think
to power.
you think the destruction of something is a lot easier than growing something.
Yeah,
War,
absolutely.
so it's like it's quicker to
Not
chop
even
down the
close.
tree than to wait years for the tree to grow. So you think
Yeah,
about a leader,
not
they'd
even
rather
close. That's
destroy to change
that's in
the
there.
country
Yeah,
rather than try and
100%.
long term grow the country and actually make meaningful change. Because I think, and I think that's also could be part of human nature in terms of
It is.
we're all wired to we want quick. We are not wired for the like delayed gratification basically. That's something we need to train ourselves to do. It's the same as like eating junk food, for example. Like you want
Yeah.
to do it straight away. You destroy kind of what you're working towards just for that one little
You
instance.
might have destroyed weeks of progress for that one meal,
Yeah, exactly. Like,
which lasts you
and I
a
think
couple
that
hours.
links. It's human. It is human nature, and I think because it's the leaders of the world, there's no one to tell them otherwise. There's no one to say, you know what,
That's a
this isn't
problem.
how we need to live. And I think that's what I don't like about the leaders of the world are seen as you know leaders. They're meant to be leaders. They're meant to be almost
They're meant to be
they're
guidance.
their position as above us, whereas no one's above anyone else in the world. Like we're all equal. So the idea of people being above and having literal power over millions of people is crazy to me. And I think that's where like humans need to evolve to a point of working together and this realization that we are equal and no one is actually above anyone else. And the people
I
at the top are here to need to be there to help humans.
I could be
That's it.
wrong, but I am pretty sure that was the exact way of thinking for ancient Greece. With their
Yeah,
way of, I'm pretty sure they had the theocracy where it's like you have these different positions and in power technically, but the way you get it is just by being competent within that field. So let's
yeah,
take it like to modern day. Let's say you have uh fucking technology sector, right?
mm,
In position of power, you say, oh, who among us has the most knowledge and the most like experience and
mm,
the most know-how to that sector. That's who we put in power
yeah.
instead of having this one
You
guy
put
all the
like
way at the top.
Elon Musk. Okay, take everything technology, do your thing. We don't care about any of your other views. They don't matter to us. Your technology and your building rockets and shit. That's all you need to do. And then
Yeah,
someone
and
else.
he's not allowed to even
Exactly. Yeah.
express opinion on other
Yeah.
sectors.
Well,
His that
he can
sector is his
express it,
sector.
but no one
Yeah, yeah,
can
well, yeah,
like.
but
It's not going to
he can't
change
be
anything.
like yeah, he can't be like, oh, I wouldn't, I don't agree with that because
Yeah.
this, whatever. Like, it's just his whole position of power is just that one little
Yeah.
thing, and that's,
I
I
think
mean,
that's it.
I don't
Why
want
do
to
you think
like,
the
I
ancient
think
Greeks like? Why do you think that's not a thing? Why do you think it's
I
been a
genuinely
thing
don't know.
and then
I genuinely don't know
stopped?
because
Because
at some point in time, I'm pretty sure I've read about technocracy, and it
mm,
was like it was slewed for just being not a good system. But what I've like read more about it, I just don't see how.
yeah,
I don't see how taking the most competent people and putting them in like power instead of just having one and like
the
one
thing is,
party.
just nature always finds a way. Like it always finds it just is because it finds its way to get there. So it's like when I think about that, it's like it sounds good, but if it didn't work, there must have been a reason why it didn't work for it's human
That's the
nature.
problem.
But I
Yeah.
think that goes back to I think that could link to the fact that we are inherently like warlike and full of conflict, and maybe
Yeah,
that's
I
why things
think
like that don't work because it just goes against our evolution, and we need to evolve more to actually be able to live in a society like that.
I'm trying to think of a string of thought here. There's a lot of shit going on up there now.
That's
I think
first.
true. I think the fact that we are so what's it called so
Susceptible.
easily susceptible to our own emotions,
Yeah,
especially when something is going bad, is inherently the reason that you can't have a system
100%.
other than something in the
hundred
like
percent.
one person in the top. Because
That's
I mean,
so true.
imagine let's say you have a technocracy, right? Something goes bad in the country. You're like, someone comes around, they're like, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna make
Yeah.
things go right. You can't get behind like 50 different people that are telling you
Mm,
this for their own little
that's true.
thing, as opposed to one person that just comes in and says, I'll do it all. You don't need 50
Mm.
people, I'll do all of it. And people are gonna be like, oh shit.
Yeah, it's that
Well, if he
relief,
can
isn't
do
it?
it
It's
all,
like people are scared
why
to
do
do
we
it
need 50 other
and
people?
change and almost do it themselves. I think
Until we get past
mastery
that point,
mastery
so
over
not past the same.
control of your emotion, mastery over your own emotional states, which is possible, is
Yeah,
where like I'd if we were taught this, for example, if this was a thing that was taught, like I'm always talking about, like, mindfulness, meditation, things like that helps you control your emotions and your reactions to things. If everyone was taught that and everyone had it, that's where I see the human race like actually evolving. If every
yeah, because then
if it was a universal
trivial
thing,
problems, trivial problems don't become a problem anymore because
exactly,
we learn,
because
we
they are
inherently
literally
learn
just
how
in
to
our
handle
head.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah, we should learn how to handle them naturally. So I think the reason we end up having, or someone ends up going to war, like I said, actually, like you said, the whole destruction versus growing.
Yeah.
When things are going bad, everyone inherently knows that obviously growing the country and fixing the roots of the problem, for example, for financial reasons or
Mm.
whatever else it is, obviously is better in the long run.
Yeah.
You're going to see the benefits in like 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And it's just going to keep getting better if you actually tackle it properly.
Mm.
But it's so difficult to think that way when, let's say, you don't know if you can survive next month
Yeah.
because you don't have,
And then
because
someone
everything is
comes
so
along
expensive and
and
you don't have a
says,
job.
"Here's a quick fix," and it's like, "Oh,
Here's a quick fix.
let's do
I
it.
can do this, this, and this to fix your life,
We just need to
and
take this
everything will be
country,
good."
and that's it."
And even worse is when, I'm thinking about especially Hitler in this case. Even worse is especially when he comes into power and they've been put in such a shit position from the start, and he does like radical things to switch everything, and
Yeah.
things actually work for a while. They're not sustainable. It's not a good way because basically what he did was just print a bunch of money and just like borrow a bunch of money, which again,
It's
not
that quick
sustainable in
fix
the long term.
destruction kind of mentality.
But
Yeah.
it is absolutely needed in that situation to like kickstart everything.
Mm.
But then you need a plan afterwards, and there was no plan afterwards. The plan afterwards was just to go to war.
Yeah.
And so that's the problem, that you need a quick fix. You get a quick fix. All of a sudden, that person has all the credibility in the world. So when then he goes around and says, "Oh, we
Yeah.
need this country for our own growth," everyone's gonna be like,
It's that
"Sure."
that reputation. I think reputation of leaders is huge as well, and just in general, like everyone's reputation is huge. It matters because that's how people see you, and that's
Yeah.
how people are going to respond to what you do. If you've got a reputation
And
for being timid, weak, people aren't going to take you seriously. If you've got a reputation of being strong because of your
exactly.
actions, people take you seriously. And I think it's
I
find a
think
balance of being your true self and being authentic, but also developing a reputation. But I think that will come naturally. I think if you're true to yourself, you develop
yeah,
a good reputation, and people take you
yeah, because
seriously because you're a good person. I think that's it.
yeah, I mean that's how it should be. And I think
Yeah.
reputation nowadays is kind of what you would see as leadership or competence
Mm.
back in the day. So when it came to like our primal state, whoever was the best at leading and doing things and
Yeah.
fighting, going to
was,
war,
yeah,
all
strong,
those kinds of
getting
things.
food. that
Whoever
kind-
was the strongest, basically.
Yeah. He's froze.
Whoever was the strongest, or like the best reputation.
Yeah.
And I think today that reputation is just competence when it comes to whatever the problem is, or how you're able to talk and convince people.
Yeah. It's just how it's like, yeah, how you can convince people and how you can change people's beliefs. I think how you can influence someone's thoughts. That's
because
that's
you don't.
where like power is, being able to change
Yeah, exactly.
what someone thinks. I think that's probably one of the
That's-
greatest powers in the world.
Yeah, because we've moved past the point where strength equals like authority. It's like, yeah, you could be
Yeah.
the strongest man in the world, but that doesn't mean shit anymore. It's like, okay, cool, good for you, but how do I fix my inflation in
Exactly.
the country? Like, you don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
And so, whoever has the best ability to convey or manipulate in a way,
And I think
how
that
to work people is
can
is
go-
who gets the most power.
it can go two ways, that idea of changing someone's thoughts. You know, you've got the side of manipulation, which is pretty negative, but like, and it's seen as negative because it's
No, but
manipulation
manipulation
means,
doesn't have to be negative.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, manipulation kind of conveys the idea of manipulation for your own needs. But then the other side of it, which I almost think is kind of what we're doing with the podcast, is changing people's thoughts for good to help them and not for your own personal gain, which is the opposite of manipulation. I don't know if there's a different word for it, because manipulation it just seems like a bad word, and I don't know if that means. I don't know if is manipulation
you can
always
use
meant to be bad.
manipulation for both situations.
Oh, we'll call it positive manipulation, just to make sure.
Let me search up real quick.
Yeah.
Manipulation definition.
But yeah, I think being able to change other people's thoughts it can only happen once you've
controlling
got control of
someone
your own.
or something to your own advantage, often unfairly or dishonestly. Okay, so the manipulation is then I think persuasion is just the best option.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's kind of, to be fair, that's what I want to do as well. I'd love to be able to help just change people's thoughts, and I wish, leaders had the same idea. Imagine all leaders wanted to persuade people and actually not do anything for their own gain.
Imagine how far we could have gotten if everyone just focused on actually advancing like the
just
entire
helping people.
world.
Yeah.
Advancing the entire world in the correct direction. It's just we had competent people that was able to do that instead of manipulating people.
Just the idea of being able to give without any expectation of something back, which no leader does because it's business. They think you can't give anything away, but it goes deeper than money and stuff like that.
Yeah, and the problem is it's very difficult to rile people up when that is your thought process of, hey, I'm coming along, I'm gonna fix everything, we're gonna have a great growing era, everything's gonna be good, we're all gonna be happy. For some people, for a lot of people, they don't see that as like a
it's because if you go back to the idea of the
just
tree,
seems boring.
Here, either watch this tree grow over years or watch me get an axe and a chainsaw and destroy this tree. When you hear that, you feel more like it's almost like a dopamine rush in your head when you hear chopping a tree down.
The male brain, which I think is why a lot of young men are often end up becoming like far right, like extremists, because we're biologically coded to just go for the more like exciting direction.
Yeah.
Because we need to be active, we need to stay active, and we need to do things.
That's it's just subconscious. It's just subconscious controlling people. We're basically
if you can realize that's very destructive. Then,
and then I think, if everyone was a bit more conscious and self-conscious, basically, where you can change your own subconscious beliefs, then that's when you start to realize watching the tree grow is actually is actually quite nice, and being grateful to watch
It's actually
Trigo.
quite
It's
fun.
good,
It's actually
and
quite interesting and cool.
being at peace with it, and just being content with the like what's going on right now,
And
whatever's
I
happening.
think also we have a problem of glorifying war or going to the military in the sense of
100%.
you are cool because you can shoot guns and you can
Yeah.
like eventually you can maybe even kill people.
And it's
like
like,
that's
yeah,
cool.
and the whole idea of fighting for your country. I think there's a lot of pride
Yeah,
and ego that comes with
there's a
war.
lot of pride in which I think is
But I think
the wrong way to go about
it's
it.
almost, I guess it's propaganda. It's how they want
It's
they need
100%.
to do it because they need people to fight. Like of course they're gonna try
But
and
yeah,
get
but
into people's heads that
I
way.
think you could do the same but switch it so the whole pride is for defending you like the people you love and the people that you have
Yeah,
at home,
that's true.
and just shifting the direction
Yeah.
slightly from aggressive to just defensive instead. And I
Yeah.
don't
And
think
then a
that's
lot of people
impossible.
might, realize actually, if their country is the aggressor and the propaganda was shaped like that, they'd go, actually, no, I'm not defending anything.
Yeah,
And that's probably why they don't do it, because they.
exactly. And I often the reason I think this is because after having seen so many documentaries of like modern war, and you hear these veterans, especially America, you hear these veterans talk about how war was for them,
Yeah.
and every single one of them say in the end, I realized that I'm just fighting like another normal
It's
human
not.
for no reason.
It's
Like there's
not
nothing there.
anything like what it
Yeah,
was
it's
made
not
out to
worth
be.
it.
Yeah.
I've ruined so many lives, so many families for what?
Just
For
because I
just nothing.
thought I was fighting for my country, I thought I
Yeah,
was
and
cool.
they all say it's because of this grand like whole scheme of oh join the Marine Corps or join this or
Yeah.
join this and you're gonna be like really cool and strong and you're gonna be amazing and everyone's gonna celebrate you as a patriot and so on and so on. What ends up happening is that you get left behind when you
Yeah.
come
It's
back
not
home because
reality.
you've got so many problems and
You're just
we don't
getting
want to.
used. I think. I think that's it. That's all you
Yeah,
really are. And I think I've got a fun
hello there.
fact. In so when psychedelics, that everyone started doing psychedelics in the 70s. Was it 60s or 70s? The hippie decade. I think it was 70s, 60s, and it wasn't 80s. It was before the Vietnam War. It was around the Vietnam War. When was the Vietnam War?
60s. Then
Okay,
I think Vietnam War was 68.
So yeah, when
yeah,
big psychedelics started coming into circulation and people started doing psychedelics, then in America they started to realize, what I was kind of saying about watching the tree grow, being a bit more grateful for the now and just being conscious. Americans started to realize that, and a lot of them started to realize they didn't actually need to go to war. And then Nixon, the president, then was like, "Wait, no one's signing up for the Vietnam War. No one's actually fighting
wants
anymore."
this. Yeah,
So,
no one's
and that's where
this
the
anymore,
and that's where the
yeah,
psychedelic.
exactly.
That's how it all started becoming illegal around then, because no one was fighting, and it's funny to think a bit of paper from then, just because of the war, and that's the idea of leaders having so much power. But when you look at it in reality, there's no difference between that there was no like kind of divine right for the guy to do that, when really people were actually helping themselves and going, oh, I'm actually happy that we don't need this, that's fine, and just being happy with what they had, and then obviously that has long term impacts in terms of shaping the ideas around it. Because imagine like in an alternate universe, it doesn't get criminalized. People carried on doing it. They didn't actually go Vietnam War ever, and there is a shift in like the human race almost. Maybe there would be less war now.
Exactly, and I think if you shift the attention for especially powerful countries like America, which I think they kind of were before, but it's just shifted completely. The whole being proud of your country and wanting to defend your country is completely fine. That is completely natural. That in my opinion, is how it should be. Like you should be happy and proud of where you come from, and be like, yeah, I
Yeah.
want to defend my country. But the problem is when you glorify it to the point of whoever I say is threatening the country is threatening
Mm.
the country and is an enemy that needs to be annihilated immediately.
Mm.
Otherwise, they
It's like,
could potentially
okay, you're being
attack.
dramatic now. Too far.
And it's like
Don't need to do all that.
now you're going into a territory which is no longer
Yeah.
about being proud
But
of where you come from.
even being proud of where you come from. Now, I don't think we even need to. There doesn't need to be a
No,
need
it
to
doesn't
defend.
need to be, but
Yeah, I mean, I like the
it
idea
doesn't
of
need to be. But
the pride,
there's
but
no problem with being proud.
yeah,
In and of itself, there's no problem being proud of where you come from. Like I'm proud of being Norwegian. I'm
yeah.
proud of being like from Norway.
But you're
There's
not going
nothing
to
wrong
just
with that.
go kind of fight for the sake of it because
Yeah, but the problem is when someone comes around and spins it and says the only way you can be proud of where you come from is if you're from Norway.
hmm,
So whoever is not from Norway and say they're
yeah,
proud of where they come from,
that's
they're
true.
like the enemy because they might come and attack you and take away your pride of being, like, take away your country, and that's like, wait, hold on, where do we just go? Like, where do we end up? That's
Yeah,
not what the focus should be.
no, 100%, and it just goes too far. And it's like, yeah, I think it's just a load of ego. It's a lot of
Yeah, and when you go back in time,
so
you
much
see one of
shit.
the major motivations for war throughout time has been religion.
Mm, that's another one. Yeah, we haven't even
And
touched on
that
that.
is so insane to me
I think that's
how you
crazy.
can how you can possibly, because the whole point of religion is that you can believe whatever you want.
It's meant to
Just
unite.
but
It's meant to
yeah, it's
unite a
meant to unite
community
people and
and
just be like
get
you can
closer to
believe whatever
God.
you want. But for some reason, when you have one religion and a different
Mm,
religion, people lose their fucking mind.
yeah,
And there's
because they have
so
to be
many
right.
people throughout history, so many people throughout history has used that it has used religion as a major basis of they are
Yeah,
the enemy because they don't believe the same
exactly.
things we do, and somehow that is wrong, and somehow that
In
is not
my
correct.
personal opinion, I don't think religion, as it is now, is the true representation of getting like closer to God in terms of it helps people get closer to God because they develop faith and they do feel connected to a greater power. However, the the words we give it and the constructs we've given religion in different religions, I don't think that's true representation. You know, I think there's so many different things in different
Yeah,
religions. I think the only way to almost be religious and feel close to God is by accepting that we don't know what it is. And I think trying to
yeah, we're all
understand it,
different.
and trying to know what this great power is or whatever, and trying to know it and give it words. Okay, it's this, and he tells us to do this and this and this stories, all this words. You know, that's when it's like, okay, it's no longer a greater power because we're bringing it into our. As soon as we give words to something, it's no longer a greater power because it's in
You
our dimension. It
you've
doesn't.
literally just humanized
Yeah,
a greater power for the sake of you needing
and
something to latch onto
that's
to
then
believe
ego.
it.
That's then what ego because ego
And
only
that's
exists
no
on this
longer a greater power.
plane. Exactly.
If it's such a greater power, you will never be able to reach it.
Unless until we're out of this form, we can't be in a human form
Exactly. Do it out of this
to
form,
reach God. And I think a
and
lot of religions
that's
share the same idea of getting like close to God and things like that. But just the
yeah, they all do.
way, yeah, they're all the same pretty much. Like they just go about it in different ways. And I think when conflicts arise from that, it's just it makes or it just doesn't make sense to me. And I think it is just the
That is
human. It's literally just our nature. I think that's all we can put that
that's
down to.
always been my biggest problem with religion.
Yeah,
It's how easy it is to manipulate people using religion
yeah,
because
because
they believe so
faith and
strongly in the
belief
religion.
is huge, and
Yeah, and it's so easy for someone to come around and manipulate people when it comes to religion because so many people are like a unity towards this one thing.
yeah,
So
exactly.
the
And when the
it's
one
so
thing is greater than anything else we ever know, Like it's even greater than pride. It's greater than a country.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
like this is God. This is my God you're talking about. This is my God.
This is
That's
like
what people believe. And then it's like then you're attacking someone's faith, and that's greater conflicts because it's really emotive. It goes deeper than just a territory. It's almost it's like a mental territory. A
it's
territory of your soul that people are
it's because
attacking.
a lot of people. I mean, you have to make it a part of your personality if you want to be actually like truly faithful.
Mm. Yeah, you have to follow practices, which is another thing I don't
You have,
understand. Like all the
no, me
certain
neither.
practices and
But
things like
that's
that. Because
religion has to be another topic, I think, because
yeah, we're
that's
gonna.
too many. We're gonna run on for that
Mm,
bit too long. The point was simply, um, leaders throughout history has used manipulation tactics on their people, and
yeah,
religion is one of the major ones because it's so easy to get people riled up when it comes to their faith, which
yeah.
is like why I've had a huge problem with it for a long time. But
So
another,
carry on.
so yeah, I think the other major one is simply like we talked about as well, the just the survival instinct
Mm.
of a lot of people that
Do you think if there was no war, do you think we'd be where we are now? Like if war didn't
no.
exist, do you think it's so? Because I think it had to exist to a certain extent.
Yeah.
What point do you think it could have stopped, and the human race be kind of either where it is now or further advanced?
That's a difficult question because you had so many. What happens in every major war is there are huge amounts of technological advancements
Yeah, I
that
was literally
happen
just thinking that.
because people get so motivated to come
Mm,
up with new ideas to survive or to like win the war.
yeah,
So it's very difficult to pinpoint when exactly that could have stopped.
that's true
But
actually.
I genuinely think when we came to the information era, as in like when internet started existing, and we came to that point, and we have like AI now and stuff like that,
Yeah,
I don't see any more reason. Just
yeah.
as we've seen
I don't think we
from
because like think okay back to I don't know, like the Cold War, like the space race, things like that. Obviously,
yeah,
technology that was huge advancements in technology. We're literally
there was
going
huge amount
out
of
of that,
in
but
space
I don't
technology.
see that happening. I can't see anything like that happening now in terms of
Take the Ukraine Russia war for example.
yeah,
The major discovery has just been that drones are
drone
extremely
yeah.
effective
But we
in
already knew
war.
that. We already had
But that
drones.
yeah, we already have
It's not
drones, so
like
that
they
doesn't
invented
matter.
drones or
And the other
anything.
thing is like the other major thing when it comes to just war technology
Mm.
is like um these fucking what's it called on water the when they keep the little drone things that they do on water, not drones, what are they called? I can't,
Like a jet ski.
kind of like a yeah, kind of like a jet ski, but it's remote controlled and there's no one on
Oh.
it. It's like a I can't figure out the name, but either way, that was also been a major discovery. Is
Mm.
in like a smaller country could easily take down a huge ship using like 20 of these that are remote, like unmanned, kind of like a
Yeah.
drone in a way, just on the sea. But again,
We a kid could have come up with
what
that.
does that matter for humanity as a whole? Nothing in this war has been discovered that wasn't discovered before.
Yeah,
And
like
I
that's
think
something
at
you
that point,
draw as a kid, like
yeah,
remote control boat with bomb.
exactly. And at that point, when nothing gets discovered throughout like the act of war, I think at that point wars become obsolete in every
Yeah,
single manner, like every
no,
single
I think I agree.
area.
Yeah, I don't think there's any because I think
I think
we've diversified to a point where people are still looking for advancements in other areas.
yeah,
Like we're looking
exactly.
for
And
more
we have so many,
advancements.
and we have such a huge war on just ourselves, as in like energy. For example,
Yeah,
we have a huge energy crisis, so that becomes a war in and
that's
of
what. Yeah,
itself to humanity,
exactly.
as
That's
well as
true.
the
That's
climate.
true.
That also becomes the
Yeah.
climate, especially. That's a
So,
huge war.
do you think
That's a huge
more?
race against time.
Do you think war is going to change to something where it is, not between humans, not a civil war, and it's going to change into a war? War is going to take a change to humans versus problem, and you think,
I hope so.
I think that honestly,
I
I think
hope
for
so.
evolution's sake, I think that's almost. I think war. Do you think war is unavoidable in life in that kind of sense, where there's always a war against something? It doesn't have to be in within the race, but you know, does there always have to be a challenge, like a problem to face to evolve?
Yes,
I think so. I think that's the only way to grow,
yes,
right?
100%. The only uh, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't. The only thing is, I wouldn't call it a war. But yeah,
Yeah, I think
there always has to be something that
adversity.
is hindering
Yeah.
a core part of humanity
It's
or a
like a
core part of your
video game.
life.
The only way you level up is by taking on harder levels, and you
Exactly,
have
or
to be
at least quick
challenged.
enough, or like in an
And like
efficient
yeah,
way.
like a harder boss or
You have to
something.
constantly go hard, like higher and higher and
Yeah,
higher. And I think this is the
that's
same
how
for
you
us.
level
We
up.
constantly need it. But I think if the focus could change of instead of going to war with each other, which at this point I think is just a huge
Waste of
uh
time, money.
backtracking,
Yeah.
a huge backtracking. You waste so much money, time, human lives,
Hmm.
competent people, and so on and so on. Especially now that everyone has an education almost, which I also think is another reason why war back in the day was so different from now, because education wasn't like a widespread
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah.
people who went to war were usually, for lack of a better term, quite dumb.
Yeah.
So
No,
you
that's
didn't
true.
technically lose that many competent people. Maybe potentials for competent people, but it wasn't in place then at that point either
Yeah.
way. So I think we wouldn't have been where we are today without the wars that we had up until we came to a point where war no longer gave
Hmm.
us any new insight to things.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And then, like you said, if we end up adopting the thought process of let's go to war with our problems as
As
like
a
a
human
humanity
race.
instead of yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think you'd have a lot of motivation, a lot of drive to fix these
Yeah.
problems.
People will
But the
start to
problem is
feel
getting
better,
to that point.
and I think it's kind of
Yeah, just
yeah,
imagine if you
it's
declare
crossing that
if you declare a
threshold and
victory. Exactly.
realizing, wait, this is better.
Yeah.
But it's like no one wants to change. It's human nature to not want to change who you
Yeah.
are, because that's so hard. You're completely going against your ego. You're saying no, you're actually wrong. But then being controlled by your ego means your ego takes over and says no, I'm not, and you just carry on
Yeah.
being the way you are. And I think it's scalable. It's like that. Every single one of us has it on little scales when it can come into like habits and changing habits, and then that also goes to a bigger scale in terms of yeah, the human race is not going to change until there's a courage and there is a will to change. And as soon as we start helping each other, I think that's when people will start to feel better and everything just kind of will fall into because it's like I'm seeing it on my own personal level, just living a life where I'm like trying to help people and not really caring about what I want on terms of ego. Like, just I've kind of stripped that back. I'm just trying to help people and go with the flow. Good things just happen, like on a
And
personal
it's also
scale,
a very
and I think
stress-free
that will
life.
happen. Yeah, and I think that can happen on a whole race scale. If everyone has a
100%.
collective thought, good things will just happen to everyone.
The only problem I think is because we are human and we're so prone to like uh, mutations, for example,
Hmm.
there will always be humans that will
Yeah.
end up like being like psychopaths or
Oh
being
yeah,
or
hundred
having
percent.
like missing certain things or and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if there will ever be a point where you could completely eradicate conflict or people wanting
Yeah.
to go to war,
I think
but
we could. You can definitely.
I definitely think because it's been proven that people who are born psychopaths, if they have the
Hmm.
correct upbringing, they can be taught to be part of society and not
Hmm.
like be crazy. The only problem is if society around them does the opposite, they're very prone to become
That's it. Yeah.
um, the psychopaths that we don't want. So I think there's a huge chance that you could negate the risk of war to a very bare minimum, but that is dependent on everyone in the world constantly or
Trying.
having the same standard of living and the standard of living slowly increasing.
Yeah. And
It needs to
yeah,
become better and better and better and better.
a lot of education around things as well, and just. But you know what? I don't think it's gonna happen in our lifetime, is it?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
No,
So there's
I
no.
don't think there's a
So
chance.
at the end of the day, there's no point thinking about it.
No, there's no point thinking about what if we could
Yeah.
have it like that, but there's a point in thinking about
I think
improving yourself to
that's
not.
it, and living your own life in a way into that direction. Because if you are, it might feel small, but you are actually helping towards the
Because
advancement
that means
of the human
you're affecting
race.
people around you as well.
Exactly. If you can change your own thoughts, you can change, you know, other people's thoughts. Because I've seen it on my own level. I've done it to myself, and then I explained this to like my mum. I was like, you can do this. She's chilled out, and she's got a new job as well. And like she's like, wow, it works. And I think that's the goal. It's like everyone should just be like helping each other for
To
them
improve themselves
rather
and better
than
their lives, and
trying to get
get
people to
like
change for you and make your own life better by shaping like things around you because that never works. There's always more.
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think that was a good little yap. I think we've covered
Well, yeah.
most most of it.
We could go even deeper into specific wars and stuff like that, but that becomes
We will be here for
I could yap
hours.
longer, but that
I
becomes
want to
kind
play
of
Rainbow Six Siege.
yeah, that becomes also irrelevant to the whole topic as a whole because we're just meant
Yeah,
to.
I think yeah the kind of the way we want to approach our topics is to ultimately bring it back to what we can do as well and our own psychology,
It's
our
more
own
about learning and
yeah
improving yourself rather than just deep diving into a
yeah
topic.
we I kind of well, for me anyway at least like I want to yeah be able to change people's beliefs and thoughts around themselves everything because it works. Good things happen if you just change change your internal state.
For in a good direction.
Yeah. And honestly, I think I say the same thing like every episode, like on the same kind of lines. We always end with like a little, you know, what you should do going forward, what you should learn, and yeah, I think it's the same as last week. Just be aware of what what is you and what isn't you, and what isn't you is the conflictual war part of you. That's primitive.
Yeah.
The bit that wants war is primitive. That's not you. You have to be aware of
You
that.
don't need it. You
And
don't
even
actually
you
need it
know
in
we've
your
spoke
life.
about war on a big scale today, but in life, individuality, those kind of conflicts, the really small wars. Maybe it's traffic on the way to work. That's a small conflict, a small war. Go look at how you approach that. Are you destroying the tree, or are you gonna let it grow? Are you just gonna be aware of the growth of that tree while you sit in the traffic and just let it happen? Because that's when you start to move forward into a more desired state of reality, rather than just chopping down every single tree you see. Because then you've got no forest, and you can't breathe, no oxygen. You know.
No, we're old fucked.
Exactly. Yeah. Any questions in chat? Anyone got anything to add? What should we talk about next week as well? 10th episode. Should we do a 10th episode special?
Yeah, but what is the special?
I don't know. It's just another episode.
Think...
It's just special because
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Do we dare go into the topic of like religion?
I think we could. I think we could actually. But what should we ask about religion? Like a general.
Why are people religious?
Yeah, yeah, we could do that. That's a good one. Next week, why are people? I think that would be a good episode. Yeah.
I have to be very careful to not
Yeah.
shit on people.
Yeah, I think we'll have
I'm
to.
gonna try my best to stay as objective as possible when it comes to that topic.
Yeah.
Um.
But we can give
I
our
have a
opinion.
lot of thoughts about it.
And I think we're not.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, we're not that bad.
I'm not gonna shit on anyone too much for being religious, but
those bloody
just a little bit.
Anyway, we're gonna get cancelled next week. 10th episode special. We're getting cancelled.
Yeah, I'm gonna get murdered.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get assassinated.
Well, that was good, and we'll see you next week. Hope you enjoyed. If you made it this far on YouTube or Spotify, comment the word
That's not gonna
Um,
happen, so there's no point.
Comment pencil, and if you comment pencil,
Pencil.
I'll like, I don't know, I'll kiss you. Yeah. Okay. Goodbye. See you next week.